All right. Am I good? Am I on? I'm on. So when any new technology happens in the world, you probably notice that at first it's complex. Like when we had the very first computer, it took up like half a room. It was like the size of like 4-car garage, and that's what it looked like first. And then slowly but surely, and now, more processing power in our pocket, right? So we go from first complex to then simple, right? So we go from garage down to, little device. The next thing that happens is most people, when it's at this complex phase, when it's in this phase of complex, they start to get disheartened, disenchanted. So we go from complex to simple, but what happens is we have to go from disbelief. We have to get through this phase. So like companies like Blockbuster, for example, they are well known for the moment in time where they chose to believe that the internet couldn't scale to stream video, when they rejected Netflix's offer to be bought out by them, right? They said in that moment that they were like, no, the internet won't scale, and they made a choice that was the death of their business. And right now we see a lot of disbelief in the space in terms of like what projects will and won't make it, and based on whatever it might be. I think after disbelief, usually what happens next is mass adoption. That's my thought on it. And I think what I want to show you today is just, can I just get a quick sense of you guys for a second? Who here is a founder of a startup or something like that? Like, are you guys, okay, founders? Cool. Who here is like investors in the room, like crypto investors, traders, that kind of thing? Cool. Who's just like here to check out crypto for the first time? Any of you guys? Handful? Oh yeah, Logan. Of course you are, buddy. This is the 12th conference I've seen you at around the world. Cool. So one of the things that I've found is that in order to get adoption, we have to really understand who it is we're taking this product to, right? Who it is that's the market. We have to understand it really, really well. So a little bit about who I am. I ran a series of events in Australia in late 2018, and I spent all day during the event teaching people how to download their first wallet, sent them some cryptos. I sent everyone in the room $5. And I saw firsthand their frustrations and their challenges in relationship to this technology. I remember being in an audience like this, and I'm talking to this lady, and this lady's like just bought $20,000 worth of Bitcoin for the very first time. And so she's sitting there and she's about to transfer it from like an online exchange, like a website, over to her Trezor, her cold storage for the very first time. And she's sitting there and she's like, oh my God. And she's literally like, we even sent like a $5 test transaction so she could see how it would work and what the steps were. And she was literally sitting there with tears streaming down her face as she sent that $20,000 for the very first time. People have a very physical, visceral experience around money. Brings up all their shit, right? So we're doing something, we're going to go through and try and get mass adoption in a technology, in a space where people have all these emotions around it. I find it very interesting though. For me, I know that these fears are very real for them, but there's something that I'll share with you after I share these fears that I think is quite interesting. So the first fear is that the customers, the users, don't want to have to learn what cryptography is. How many of you know how SMTP protocol works? By show of hands. Okay. Now, for those of you who didn't have your hands up, that's what your email gets sent over, right? And you didn't have to learn how SMTP protocol worked to send an email or not, okay? So what everyone's trying to do is have people learn about how the public key and the private key work together, and it's just kind of not necessarily a necessary step for adoption, if that makes sense. The next thing is they don't want to get hacked. They're scared of what they don't know about. They're scared of the boogeyman. They're scared of the thing in the closet. It's the same thing we're scared of when we're kids. Mom, there's someone under my bed. I can't sleep. It's just your father. He's drunk again. No, I'm joking. So the next thing they don't want to do is they don't want to lose money. Who here wants to lose money by a show of hands? No one? I'm surprised. This is very typical. This is something that, no thanks. Yeah. I need some water. I have a flowery mouth. Losing money is something no one wants to do. I haven't found anyone yet who's like, okay, I want to teach me how to lose some money. That's not something I hear. And the other thing they don't want to do is waste time. Users don't want to actually have to go and spend hours learning about this whole entire process. In fact, it doesn't make sense to spend all this time wasting time when they're just trying to get a benefit out of it. But the thing I think that most users fear more than anything else in the whole entire world is simply this. They are scared about having to think. You think about how this world operates. Everything is built around convenience. They don't want to have to think about it. They just want it to happen. They don't want to have to press fast forward on their VCR. They want to have Netflix and click skip intro and have no ads. That's the world we live in. They don't want to have to think about these things. This is important to them. It's an important distinction, is that the use cases that we'll see in mass adoption will be when the user doesn't have to think. It's just happening as a part of the process. Does that make sense? Cool. So these are the things they desire. Actually, just before I share this, there's something really interesting to me is I had this realization a little while ago, but I realized that the one thing that we share in this world, we might all have different ideologies, different religions, different biases, different belief systems, but the one thing we all share is money. We're transacting and it's flowing around the world. There is actually something that connects us, and it's money. We're taught that it's bad and it's all these things or whatever it might be, but there is actually this thing that interconnects us. And blockchain has the potential to transform the way we relate to money and the world. So things users desire is if they're going to use something, they want to be able to earn and make money out of it. Right? And I don't mean trading or this or that or whatever it might be in the crypto space. I mean just earn their wage, have their boss pay them their money into this system. How many of you would prefer, say it was a stable coin or something, would you prefer crypto over fiat? How many of you prefer crypto? See, this is where it starts to get interesting. You imagine the volume if all the money coming in is in crypto, right? Another thing they want is they want privacy. This kind of speaks for itself, but don't get me wrong, I love Bitcoin, but if you send someone your public key, they can see how much money you've ever had through that wallet and that address just because you gave them the public key. People don't necessarily want that experience. So there is concerns around that I've seen from users. They want diversified assets. This is really interesting. Most people just want to go, when you meet, I met 7,500 people that were ask different questions from the floor and things like that. And I learned very quickly that all they wanted was to go and buy the top 50 or 60 coins and put $10 on all of them and make a diversified bet. They were like, I don't really know which one's going to win, which one's not. I want to buy a bit of all of them. And they were speculating. It was speculative, right? Another thing they desire is ownership. They do want full ownership. How many of you have ever had the experience with banks where your money was in limbo for some period of time? You sent it overseas and it was stuck in limbo for a number of days. No one wants that. And the other thing they want is simple transactions. They don't, I don't want to have to think about it. I just if I pay you for something, it's done. We don't have to talk about how the transaction is going to work. We don't want to have to talk about, okay, so I'm going to send you this, and then you're going to do this, and then you're going to do this. We don't want to have that conversation. We just want to talk about what we're talking about and go, oh, here, it's done. Does that make sense? Cool. How many of you are finding this useful? Yeah? Cool. So there's 4 critical blocks to mass adoption. Here's the first one. There's too many experts talking to experts. Like these conferences, a lot of the time, and there's a lot of founders in the room when they put their hands up before, and a lot of investors and traders, that there's too many experts talking to experts. If we want mass adoptions, everyone go and adopt many people. We need experts talking to non-experts. We need more education for people who are new to the space. We need to focus on new users. We need to focus on onboarding. We need to focus on really cool user experiences in really cool apps. Does that make sense? So here's the second block. Please explain to a 2-year-old what this is on the screen. Looks like the computer had an error and did a little poopy on the screen. Doesn't actually look like it has function, even though it does. We happen to know it has function. Here's the progression. Are you ready? We're going to go from this to something like this. A cash tag. Right? How many of you think that would be easier to just remember your cash tag to receive money? Somewhat, yes. The other thing that I found that's huge and really, really relative, sorry, I'm going to walk with my water back onto the stage for a second. One thing that I've found too is that it's just unusable. Like I think I said on the panel earlier, if you were going to go from here out onto the street, how many of the stores out on the street could you actually spend your crypto at right now? I got a big fat 0 from Clayton. So I think that this brings up a really interesting point, which I'd actually like to bring Tom up here. Tom has some interesting things to say on this subject. Tom recently stated this, now it's quite public.
How you doing, Rossco?
I'm good. How are you?
Good to see you.
Likewise. So Tom is actually a co-founder with me at DebtFi, but he has this interesting question around, like, where the fuck is our global peer-to-peer electronic cash system? Like, where is the actual usable money? Tom, do you want to tell everyone what this means?
It's been 10 years. Me and Rossco have been trying to figure out where adoption comes from, how to make things more useful to people. And I realized it's been 10 years since Bitcoin came out, and it still hasn't solved the first use case of cryptocurrency and blockchain, which is peer-to-peer electronic cash.
Wasn't that like the subhead on the Bitcoin white paper?
Yeah, that is the definition of Bitcoin. That was Bitcoin peer-to-peer electronic cash. And so all these cryptocurrencies are, for the most part, peer-to-peer. We figured that part out. It's a huge innovation, but electronic cash, not so much. You can't really use Bitcoin as cash, and it's not a complete system. We have like a partial system, but it's not a holistic system.
Yeah, for sure.
So, yeah, I think...
You mentioned this because you said it's not complete, and one of the things that I love that you have on this is the what sound money is.
Yep. And so this relates a lot to the cash part. How do you actually use a digital currency in your daily life and spending, transacting in your life? And so I think I identified a couple of issues that are lacking from the current cryptocurrency solutions. One is like it doesn't devalue. Bitcoin, sure, if you look at it over 3 years, its value goes up. But if you look at it, this week versus next week, it might go up, might go down.
If you get your pay on Tuesday, there is a real risk.
Yeah,
that
you may not be able to pay your bills.
30% different next week.
Yeah. So if you're budgeted, $1,000 a month, you get paid $1,000, and all that money is budgeted towards something, and it goes down 20%. Well, guess what? You can't pay your bills now. How are people supposed to use a cryptocurrency that loses its value like that? Cool. It's not going to work.
What else is it?
So it can't be in limbo, right? And that's one of the huge benefits of cryptocurrency. When I use the banking system, transfers are sent in like 3 to 5 business days. That means on the weekend, that's actually 2 more days. On the holidays, it's 2 more days. I've actually had it take up to like 9 days for money to send from one account to another in the US. So that's a huge benefit that comes with cryptocurrency. Mm-hmm. And then the other benefit we get is the lack of capital controls. If you're in a country where they're like, oh, you can't send money out of the country without our permission, like that's kind of a big issue for me. Like I need to use that money. I travel around a lot. I need to use it in different places. So if we combine, the benefits, we have a lot of benefits of cryptocurrency. The major issue that I see is like the lack of stability for your daily spending.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. So this is something we need to do, is we need to uncrypto crypto. Everyone's trying to like compel everyone to get into the cryptocurrency space, to get into the blockchain space, but we just need to make it more usable. When we went from horse and cart to motor car, we didn't change the fact that we were still transporting. That's the activity. We were still doing transportation. And in monetary system, the main function of money is transacting. And we don't want to change the fact that we're going to be transacting. It doesn't matter whether it's like, to the user, it doesn't need to matter how like that they can do it. It's just that they can do it. Does that make sense? So this is a cool project. Tom and I are not going to pitch to you any of the things that we're working on, but if you want to see the pitch, you can always come and see us, because this isn't a pitch talk. But you need applications like Masendo that we're working on, where you can just send $50 in the native currency to another person, right? So if I owe you $100 because we had dinner out together, I send you $100. And if you happen to have US dollar is what you receive, then that's what you see. You have the experience of experiencing currency in your native currency and having the choice of what that is. Do you want to say anything else to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the main point there is like actually we have all the technology to make this happen.
Yeah.
It already exists. Like you can have an app like this. It looks like US dollar, and it's actually all cryptocurrency. It's all peer-to-peer.
Behind the scenes, it's some version of a stable coin that's working, and the user doesn't have to experience it any differently than cash itself. Does that make sense? Cool. The next thing that's a block is the diversifying a portfolio. I had so many people ask me at like teaching these events. They were like, Rossco, how do I just buy the top 50 coins? And I'm like, well, you need these 5 wallets, these 17 exchange accounts, about 7 hours, and a 300-point checklist. And that's how you're going to do it. Like it was mind-boggling to me that that's what it takes to diversify in the space. It's like nuts. So the types of things you want to have is tools like this, where you can do things in very simple steps. So you have like crypto wealth management tools where you can load in, say, one currency, slide some sliders and hit rebalance, and you've got a whole new portfolio without ever having to leave cryptocurrencies and go on to the exchange and do this. And it's seamless and flawless as far as user experience goes.
Yeah, and it needs to remain decentralized.
Exactly. Like this product flips up. You load in, like, say, Ethereum, and it uses decentralized exchanges in the background. All you've got to do, though, is load in Ethereum, slide the little sliders across. I want this much this coin, this much this coin, this much this coin, and then hit rebalance. Simple. Make sense? These are the types of these are the types of thoughts you want to be thinking, especially the founders in the room. You want to be thinking about, how do I make the user experience simpler, and what is it they want? They just want to get the outcome in as little steps as possible. And they don't want to have to think about it along the way. So I wanted to get you to help me with this and chat through this, because this is one of your big strengths, especially some of these, and I know you're going to be talking about it tomorrow as well, but the critical users for mass adoption.
Yep.
These are some of the things that both Tom and myself have identified as being really important for mass adoption. The first one is like, you've got sort of 3 levels of victims here, but then you also have a completely different class, which is kind of equal and opposing, that are having very similar problems. So, Tom, do you want to talk to some of the challenges that these guys are experiencing?
So, I mean, on the right side, we have like the wealthy, the sovereign individuals. They want to, control and own their wealth, right?
Yep.
And then on the complete other side, we have we all know about hyperinflationary economies, but another huge problem is migrant workers. They actually are sending their money back home. That's the entire remittances market, which is about $500 billion.
And just on that, guys, like remittances, for example, some migrant workers are in territories where they lose 10, 20, up to 50% of the check they send home.
Yep, that's the main issue, is like the predatory fees on the migrant workers sending money across borders. So it's usually if you have cross-border transactions, there's a lot of friction, and that's actually where cryptocurrency has its primary benefit. So I think that it's very important for any cryptocurrency-focused company to focus on the cross-border because that's where the sharpest pain is. And there's tons of little niches in there. We're going to go more into that actually tomorrow when we're talking about emerging markets in Southeast Asia on the panel tomorrow.
Thanks, man. Let's everyone thank Tom. Give him a little round of applause.
Thanks, Rossco.
Good. Cheers. So I have an adoption challenge for you all. The challenge is this. It's quite simple. Is choose an amount of money for yourself, like $50, say, or $100, or $10, whatever it is. And I want you to go give it away, like $5 at a time. And I want you to go through the process of using whichever wallet you're going to use to send it to whichever wallet you're going to get the person to download. But I implore upon you to find new users. Now, obviously, this has some side benefits. The more people we get into the network, the better for all of us, especially you hodlers. But the reason why I want you to do this, especially as founders, I've met so many founders that are super intelligent, like beautifully intelligent in this space. Like some of the best minds are in this industry right now. It's inspiring. And they forget to do customer interviews. And so use this as a challenge for yourself to go and do customer interviews. I'm going to just quickly share with you why adoption matters for me. For me, it's really important because the next generation that comes through, this is my wife, my bubbas, my kids. This is why adoption matters to me, is so that I can go and create a world or play my role in making sure that there is more ways in which people can do business and commerce that has true freedom in it for our children and our future generations. I think it's super important that, you think about why adoption matters for you and why it matters to go out there and create an impact. That's pretty much me, guys. I just want to say how we do this is we work together. There's no such thing as competition in this space. There's only people working on projects they're working on, and we should be promoting all of the cool stuff in this space. So come talk to me. I want to hear from you guys, what you're up to out there, and thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Rossco. That was awesome. Thank you.
There's never been a tulip mania that's done that.